There we go. Howdy, folks. Good evening. Let me blow off this camera a little bit. Think that's got it. There we go. Howdy, folks. Thanks for joining me. My name is Dave. I'm a woodturner, and I started this channel to become a better teacher, a better demonstrator, a better turner as well. The more I talk things through, it always cements it better in my head. And the more I practice, the better I get, right? I also started the channel to help people like you become a better turner too. If you've even just considered getting into the craft and you don't know anything about wood turning, hopefully this channel will give you a pretty good idea of the mechanics behind it and hopefully get you interested in turning. So today today we're going to use a glue block. We're going to use a glue block. I have a really nice piece of maple, and I'm not sure if it's crotchwood or burl. I think it might be crotchwood. We're going to find out. But I'm going to prep this for the glue block, and we'll go from there. I'll explain all about this stuff and as we go along. Connor Mallow. Hey, Connor, how's it going, man? Been up to lately? Uh-oh, there we go. Go the other way. So I've had this oh, let's turn this down. And I think I may need to do that. Yeah, that helps. Alright, so I've had this piece of wood in my shop for, I don't know, years. I just haven't decided what to do with it. So, but anyway, I was looking at it today and said, you know what? It looks very much like it wants to be a bowl, so that's what's going to happen. I thought about maybe making a littered box out of it or something like that, but I really think that the grain on this really needs to be visible, and with a lid you won't be able to see inside without taking the lid off. Okay, let's see. Hopefully this doesn't wash things out. Let's see what we can do here. That doesn't look too bad. Connor says, not too bad. I'm about to go make another bowl. That's going to be a gift from my girlfriend. Sweet, man. Very, very cool. Who you gonna go turn with? Alright, I think we're nice and secure, yeah. We're secure there. So, Ken Hunter, cool, very, very cool. So, this black bit here is a flange, basically a turning flange. It's threaded for this lathe, and I have it set on a block of wood. And the block of this wood has got a slightly, I wonder if I can get that shown on camera maybe. Let's throw down a little shade there. So it's slightly concave. It's not a very deep concavity. It's just enough to make sure that when this sits on the bottom, or wherever, yeah, I'm going to attach it on the bottom, this will be my bottom, that it's the outer ring that sits on the wood, because that's where we're going to have our glue line. I've also mounted this to the lathe. I put a square block on here, mounted to the lathe, trued it up so it was round, made the concavity, and then I drilled a 1/8 inch hole in it, in the center. And the reason for that is so I can use this really fancy tool here I bent out of a piece of coat hanger. And that fits right down in that hole. And my center point here on the bottom, this will sit in that center point, and I can lay this down right at or very, very close to center when I set the glue. So, and I'll be using thick CA glue. And the reason I use CA glue is because it has a really, really strong shear strength. Like, you can cleave it perpendicular to the glue line and it'll just pop off. But in this case, if we're using rotational force, that shear strength from it trying to twist off is super, super strong. So I like using CA glue for stuff like this, just to have that that strength of bond, so this doesn't come flying off the lathe or whatever it is I have on the glue block. So what I need to do with this surface is I need to make it slightly concave. So again, well, this rim won't sit on it, but this rim will sit. I don't want it flat because then it might want to float around when I've got it on center with that clothes hanger wire. So I want this to be slightly concave, so where this sits in is almost like a little valley. So it sits right on the edge right here, and that's the only place I want the glue line. Check that is stick a ruler up there and a ruler on the edges. If I got a little light underneath, which I do, not right there of course, which I do, then that is, but I really want it concave in the middle, so I got to get a longer, where did I put that guy? Oh, I know, a slightly longer ruler than that. It could be any straight edge, it doesn't really matter. I'll just use my combo square here and I'll go right across the middle, and if I can see light down in underneath, then I know that it is going to be concave. I've got light coming in all the way up to about this ring here, so I'm going to hit that with the spindle gouge so I can get a lot closer in there, and then I won't have so much to sand away to get that out of the way. Unfortunately for this piece, I already had my center hole set because I turned the blank around, the billet around, before I put it on the shelf. Okay, I'm going to see if I can get just a wee bit closer in there. When I can grind that off, it'll be easier to find that center. Let me check that spot there. That'll be in the center of this cup, so this is just ever so slightly raised right here. It's not really going to matter, but because it won't touch the glue block. The glue block will just sit out there, but I need to find that center hole again so I can set my glue block. So first things first, actually while I had this up there, that might have been a little easier. To do this. So how close does Ken live to you, man? I don't think, yeah, I haven't been to Ken's shop yet. Okay, so I'm going to sand that little bit, and then I'll find my center again. That'll work. Although I should put some oil in it. That will do. Alright. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my center finder here. Let's move this guy to the back. I don't really need it now. Alright, put the ruler away, here we go. So I'll take my center finder and I'll rotate it around 4 times. Line it up. For some reason, man, I don't understand. It's always just a little bit off, so I don't have them ever meet in the middle. There's always a little box. So I don't know if it's the angles off on the center finder, I'm guessing. Okay, wrong drawer. That was the right drawer. So I need to locate the center, and I want to be able to put the coat hanger wire right in this spot. There we go. And hopefully it will be fairly, I'm sure it'll be fairly centered or close. So what I want to do is, oh, and another thing with glue block, you don't want to use a soft wood like pine or box elder. I wouldn't use that. The softer woods you really don't want to use because they could, depending on how big the piece you have on it is, that rotational force and that weight could rip the block apart. This is a piece of white oak. Not one that I recommend to everybody because it's like really hard wood, but maple, cherry, walnut, those kind of woods, those work really, really well. I just happen to have some white oak and in just the right size board, 8/4 board that was just enough to make 4 of these if I cut squares, so I did that. Alright, so I got my coat hanger wire through the center here. I want to put it right in there where I made that little divot in the surface. So now can be fairly certain that it's at least very close to center. So I'll take my pencil, I'm going to draw a line around the outside right on the bottom here on the face of the piece. And that's where I'm going to put my glue. So I do typically use, I have used medium CA glue. I typically use thick. But I'm just going to put it right on that line because that's where the outer edge of the, or just barely inside the line, because that's where the outer edge of the glue block is going to sit. I just want the very outer edge to be making contact. I don't want to glue the whole thing to the face because then it'd be really pain in the butt to get it apart. So there's that. Now I just gotta, if I get that in center, let's clean that off. I'm going to shoot this guy with the accelerant. And then I'm going to center it and then set it right down as close to as I can to the pencil marks. Push it down to make sure it's making contact so it's not floating on top of the CA glue. And then spray that bead of glue that's all the way around. And we're going to let that sit for a minute or two. And I will be right back when we put the glues away. But in essence, that's a glue block. There's a lot of advantages to having a glue block instead of a chuck. One is I can waste that wood away if I need to. I've got, what is it, 1.5 inches there that I can, if it was a chuck, it'd be all metal. I've got this little piece of wood if I need to get a little bit tighter in. Of course, it would break the glue bond, but I don't have to worry about dinging my tool on this because it's wood. If I want to make this glue block smaller, I can do that. In fact, I have a couple different sizes down here all ready to go. This one is going to be a glue block, but I keep them all down here close to the lathe. This is a glue block, or it needs to be a glue block. It hasn't been made one yet, but it's the right shape. So I've got a few sizes down here. Some like this guy. This is another piece of oak. It's about... It's very near the end of its life, and I say that because the screws that go in here, and I use number 10 screws here, number 10 sheet metal screws. I want those to drive into the wood, but they do have a length, and so I've got probably 1/8 of an inch left here before I start clipping screw tips. So usually on this guy, if I need to use it, I'll put it in a chuck, and then I'll use it that way. I still have wood to waste away if I need to get my tool in there. It's all right. So I don't know what shape to make it yet, but I am going to bring up the tailstock before I turn this dude on, because if it's not running true, I need to, well, I'm going to turn it true anyway, but hopefully it's not too far off. I'm going to clean up this outer edge. I don't know, I don't guess I really need to. I guess I could just go with it and figure out. I've got a general idea of what kind of bowl I want to make. I want it to have a little bit of a rim, I think. Well, let's just true it up anyway. Well, it's running pretty true. I got really, really close. So just a simple pull cut. The handle is leading. The handle here is going in front of the cutting edge, so it's a pull cut. Wouldn't look any different if I was pulling it this way. Everything would still be in the same orientation. I just was standing on the other side. Okay, so I think this is actually burl wood. Oh man, that's exciting. It's got all kinds of figure in here, just everywhere. I don't know though, it still could be crotch wood. Once we get a little bit further into it, we'll find out. Okay, let's see. So this is my bottom. How do I want to shape this guy? I think I will take a larger tool rest. See if that's the right height before I tighten her down. The The answer is no. Okay. Oh, and hey, while I'm at this, I'll put this on my face while we do this here, I guess. There we go. Starting this weekend at Twisted Fish Gallery in Elk Rapids, there is a gallery show, and I am being partnered up with a painter named Alan Masiak. So we're pairing up and doing displays of our artwork together at the gallery, and the show actually starts Friday. So hopefully you can make it out there and check it out. There's lots of other really cool artwork out there, including outdoor sculptures made from metal, just all kinds of cool stuff there. So hopefully you can make it out. That went a little too low. There we go. Okay, so that's trued up. What do I want to, what kind of shape do I want it to have? I am at the right height, so we can tighten this dude down. Okay, so I want a little bit of a rim up here. It doesn't have to be a big one. And it could be any shape of rim. Right? Right. I will say that's a mighty hard wood, but it is maple. It's been sitting around for a while. I don't know if you can see all this figure. Oh yeah, you can right there. Looking right about here. There's just so much of it in there. Got some bark inclusions too that hopefully won't disappear too much. I'd like to keep those if possible. We shall see. So I don't know, man. I could probably cut the other way. I was like thinking, because normally in a bowl you want to cut downhill to the fibers, and these fibers are going everywhere, so I guess it may not matter. I was just approaching it as a regular bowl, so I'm going to take cuts the other direction. Let's see what we get. At least I'll be able to get my tool in there. Came out of the cut there, didn't swing my handle around enough to get around that curve. Alright, let's see how that wood grain looks. I don't know, half a dozen one, six the other, I guess. It doesn't really matter which direction I go with it. So that's nice to know. Okay, so, wood shavings everywhere. Let's see. I'm kind of liking the shape as it's coming out now, and that might give me Slow and steady wins the race. Just move as fast as your tool can cut. Boy, that's leaving a nice surface. I'm only moving as fast as the tool can get through the wood. This is hard wood, for sure. Let's see. How do I want to do this? Maybe I will just make a round rim. Maybe I'll do that. Kind of just letting the idea float through my brain right now. I think I'm liking the shape, but I think, let's see. So this is a push cut. The cutting edge is in front of the handle. I'm just pulling it toward me. Nothing else has changed. Alright, that's closer. Man, that's pretty wood. Really nice figure in the creamy part too. Nice. Okay, let's see. Let's take a look at this from the side here. Clean it up a bit. A little bit of shear scraping just to clean up the surface. Really nice. Get these really, really fine angel hairs. Handles down low. I'm only contacting the bottom wing. I'm keeping a gap between the upper wing and the bowl so I can look right down and see where the tool is cutting on this edge, and you can see where the wood or the shavings are coming over right there. taking really light cuts with it. The other thing I'm dealing with too, there's cracks and splits, and I'm trying to turn those away so they're not in the final piece. We'll see how that turns out. Okay, so this bark inclusion looks like these go in a little way, so that's really cool. I'm close to what I think is the shape I want for this bowl. Just bringing it, just refining the shape. It's getting there. This is let's see, thanks. Hopefully that's kind of, yep, just like 1/16 of an inch. Don't need much. I just want it to sit on this outer rim of the foot. Yeah, proper tool technique is really important. If you're watching my hand here, you can see I'm just bringing it straight up, and my hand is straightening out to its neutral position here. On its own. I'm not trying to rotate anything, so that is the most efficient and, in my opinion, proper technique to use with the spindle gouge. Yeah, do I want a square shoulder there though? I do not. And if you'll notice, I always have my anchor. It's on my body too. My bevel set before I get that cut started. When I get that cut started, off to the races. Don't know why I just used that. Because what the hell does it really mean? Like, you're in a big hurry to get to the racetrack for some reason? Alright, so just doing a little shear scraping, very safe cut, don't need a handle, very fine shavings. That is almost there, but golly, let me think about this. Let's see. If I get the outside done, I definitely need a way to hold it on the bottom. So I can do something about that. This is really hard wood, so I can set in on this dude a shelf to expand my jaws into, so that'll work. Got got to keep assessing as you go so you don't paint yourself into a corner. And, you know, listen to the wood. What is it telling you? Come up on this guy. So I'll have to work the bottom a little bit more, but that's all right. Dang, man. That wood is hard. Just using that tool, it's harding tool, it's smoking the wood a little bit. Let me go put another burr on this. Well, let's get this first. Be enough. That was weird. All right. Let's see. I need to go put a new burr on this guy, so go to the grinder real quick, and here we are. Yeah, I think that's I really want to hold this guy. And then I can turn this into a feature. Clean that up a little bit. Okay, so that's how I'm going to hold it on the bottom. I've got it slightly undercut with that skew, so my dovetail jaws will fit right in there. Give me a little bit extra hold. Always trying to err on the side of safety. Okay, decisions. What am I going to do with the outside of this bowl? I like the shape. I think think I'll take this curve in just a little bit more. Excuse me. So, just reminding you that this is a live and interactive broadcast. I do monitor chat, answer questions. If you have any comments, please do me a favor, drop a hello in the chat when I know who's here. Just taking a really, really light cut. You can see where the shavings are coming right over the tool. This guy. So as I'm doing this, I am paying attention to where it's cutting, but I'm also looking at the lines up here so I can gauge how my cut's going, because I can't see underneath the tool. I can only see the top of the cut as it's happening or coming in contact with that bottom wing. So as I have my body set and I can move back and forth, I'd look up there. Body mechanics are set, so nothing with the tool is changing position. So it is safe to do that. Let's see, I think that is about right. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's about right. So I have now prepped this for sanding. It's almost exactly the way I want it as far as the surface prep. I'm just going to do a little bit more really light shear cuts just to clean up a couple of spots that are catching my eye here, and continue to prep the surface for sanding. Some abrasive. And I'm using a really, really light touch. Just making contact with the wood. I really just want the cutting edge itself to just barely make contact. I'm cutting the tops off everything, so wherever it's a rough spot, it's just taking the very top of that rough spot off so that the surface is smoother. My goal is to start with a fairly high grit of abrasive. Don't get me wrong, if I have to sand something at 60 grit, I'll do it. But I'd rather not. So I lost my curve a little bit there. Let's clean that up. There we go. And we'll round this edge. So now actually I can sand the whole bottom. That is done. So I'm going to get rid of all these fine shavings. You can tell it's a real lot of really light cuts. These are very fine shavings. I really am just been refining the surface for the past, whatever, I don't know, 20 minutes maybe. Because again, I want to start like on this surface right here. I could actually start at 320 with the sanding. I'm going to start at 220, but I think that's a really nice surface, and I could start higher grit. And that's my goal. So we got some 220 here. Want to limit how much sanding I really need to do because, well, other people have said it better than I do, but if I'm sanding, I'm not turning, and I'd rather be turning. So, practice tool control. That way, the better I get at it, the less time I actually have to spend sanding. Woo, boy. That's spinning pretty fast. Let's see, I think I've got another bit right there. Can't quite get into here. You know, I slow this down. I don't need to be going that fast. I may get a dowel rod. I think I'll get a dowel rod. Just get a little help here, getting it right into that. Curve where my fingers won't quite fit, or get the abrasive right down into the curve, the inside of that curve. My fingers won't do it, so this will. There we go. I think that's just about got it. So just match the dowel rod to the size and shape of the curve. If this was a wider curve, I'd have a larger piece of dowel rod. And doing my best to make sure that the abrasive paper conforms to the shape, so it makes it a little even easier to sand. And then we'll hit it with 320. Whoop, there goes that. Good reminder, you'll see that a lot because I don't have a death grip on my brake. I also don't have a death grip on my tools most of the time. I say most of the time. I don't put a death grip on my tools either. And the reason for that, well, one reason anyway, it's not the only reason, but one reason is that if I had a really tight grip on this and it pulled this in like it just did, I would go with it. And I don't want to. Because machinery does not care if you scream. So the better you do your sanding process, the better your finish is going to be, bar none, period. So it's worth taking the time to do it right. That's 600 in the 320, there it is. And yeah, you know, sometimes sanding can feel like a chore. But the better you get with your tool control, the less of a chore it will seem. And instead of trying to rush through a piece, you can spend the time to actually really get, I mean, you should do that anyway, but here I don't feel like I'm starting at, you know, I don't know, 100 grit. And I've got to work all through these grits to get to whatever I think my finished grit will be, which at this point I don't know. So I don't feel like I'm having to rush through a piece. I do as much of the work up front as possible before I even get the sander out. Now when I started turning, I sanded a lot. I am no stranger to spending hours sanding pieces. Most people start there. It's not a bad thing. I just don't want to spend that time doing that anymore. So this is just, I don't know, public service announcement to say that working on your tool control really pays off. It's not just in how well you can turn and work with woods, it's also what kind of finishes you get. And I read an interview about a, wow, that's looking just gorgeous. Almost like glass. That's just 320. A French museum curator or something. Anyway, he was wandering through a mini symposium, I suppose, looking at the, and he came up to a wood turner and they were talking, and he said most wood turners hide their poor turning skills behind pretty wood. And I thought, you know, well, all right, first of all, that's pretty blunt, but hey, you know, Why can't we all be a little honest, I guess? Not hurtful, but you know what I'm saying. Not take offense over every little damn thing. But he's got a point. Everybody has different skill levels. I don't know if I've reached the pinnacle of my skill levels yet. I keep exploring different things, but that's just me. I'm sure that the more I turn, the better I'm going to get at it, because it's just a cumulative thing. But I do know I want to be the best turner I can be. That means practicing tool control. And I want to spend a minimum amount of time sanding. I'm taking a little extra time with this piece because it's been sitting on my shelf for several years. It is a lovely piece of wood. Yeah, we're done. That's it. That's the surface that I want. That's perfect. I don't need to go any higher than 320. That's beautiful. That makes me happy. Alright, so now I can take this away. I can turn that off. And then I'll put it in a chuck. One of the reasons I did not mention this, one of the reasons that I did use a glue block too, is that I only had, 2 inches of material to play with. So if I had to make a tenon to grab onto it to be able to true it up, that would have wasted away whatever that, quarter inch of wood that I didn't want to waste away. I wanted to be able to use as much of it as possible. It's just absolutely gorgeous wood. Oh man, now I'm feeling like I'm going to have to put some buffing balm on here. I'll do that in a minute. I'm going to clean this bottom up. Get rid of the elbow poker guy. He's not very friendly. Got gouged yesterday right there. Not paying attention. Too high. Oh yeah. Now we're too low. I think that works. So I'm every time I'm adjusting my tool rest, just FYI, I'm setting it up to where the point of my tool, where I want to end the cut, is right at center. So however that looks angle-wise on your lathe or your setup will look different than mine, but that's all that it is. I want the cut to end on center to get a clean bottom cut. Excuse me. So I'm essentially doing surface work, right? I'm not sanding though. I'm turning it off, and that's the difference to me. Get the sawdust out of the dovetail here. Oh, well, I should have waited on that. So a little abrasive here. We'll start with 220 again. Oh wow, I turned that whole thing at 400 RPM. Wow, do that a lot. But again, it doesn't matter how fast you turn in most situations, in my opinion. You got a lot of airspace you're cutting, then yeah, it makes a difference. The slower you go, the more you're going to be bumping around, so you want to get your lathe speed up to have that time that you're air cutting to decrease. And as you're cutting through that, not only will the time decrease, but the amount of air that you're cutting will decrease because you're turning away, at least in theory, because you're turning that stuff away. Okay, that was 220, so let's grab some 320. Did I have any that was still usable? Not so much. Okay. Not afraid to throw away used up sandpaper. It's not going to get any better. Just getting the sawdust out of that, dude. How does that look? Like I don't have a grain direction that I gotta follow. So that's a plus too. Oh man, I love working with this kind of wood too, because if there's a crack or a split, or say I want to fill that stuff in with, I don't know, probably bark and CA glue. If the glue darkens the timber any, it's not really going to show. Assuming it's not, you know, a big splotch, but it's not really going to show because you got all of this variegated grain, all the different color combinations running through it. It's not going to show. So that's one of the reasons why I really like working with this stuff, because there's times you deal with cracks, splits. And I like to use an engraver to sign my pieces. Because it doesn't interrupt the grain. You can see it etched in there, but when the finish is put on, it's not like a different color. The grain still shows through, and I like my pieces to show up that way. The wood is the star, not my name. Man, that is just, Where are you? Where'd you go? Where'd you go? That one was wood. So was that. Where's the big guy? Where is the big guy? Huh. Oh, maybe it's over here. Oh, no, it's in the truck. Alright, this one will work. So I just need a chisel and a mallet. And I picked up a round face, or a, whatever they call that, a beveled or round face backing pad. So if I need to do or to do any sanding on the inside, I have that curved surface to start with on the sanding backing pad. So before the compressor took over all of the sound waves, I was feeling this going, man, I wish I could pass this around. It's just so smooth. It's just, that's really, really lovely. All right, so let's get this guy off of here. So as I said before, shear strength, and that would be, the shear would be in the direction of rotation. Shear strength of this stuff is really strong. But perpendicular, it pops right off. So I got to clean up my glue block. And be careful when you're working with this, because there is glue on the edges, and that stuff is super sharp. And I think I am going to grab the accelerator, because there is still some little bits of glue that did not set. So I want to set that now so it doesn't get all over everything. It's not a bunch of glue, but I don't want my fingers sticking to anything. Light, Dave, light. There you go. So we'll just shoot that up real quick. Plus, I won't be slinging glue all over the place if that might be a thing. It's not that much glue on there, but if there was, it could happen. Get those guys out of there. So set this guy aside for a sec, and we'll work on this guy. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get rid of all those sharp edges, and that's just need to speed it up. And that's just a straight, nothing's flying at me. If it hits the flute of the tool, it's going to go away from me. I want to get all that off there before I do anything else. Because if I got to handle this, I don't want any sharp edges there. This stuff will cut you. It's plastic. And very sharp. So I got to turn a little bit away because this part of the glue block broke off. But again, I've got a thick. I can use this glue block for many bowls, many pieces. Because I don't need to take it much off to get it to true up again. Alright, let's make sure it is concave. It is slightly concave. That works. And then I want to round this edge. And I need something that doesn't have a mile-long handle. So just round that edge off really nicely, and that way the next time you're using it, say in the bottom of a bowl as a friction chuck, or you're using it as a glue block, you don't have a really sharp edge that could dig into your piece. It's rounded edge, so it will treat your other piece of timber much more kindly. But I don't need the glue block anymore. In theory. Because I set myself up for a chuck hold. Who's got the key? There it is. I'm gonna Likely harasser restricted. Modi car 416. Oh wow, there's a couple more. Sorry, let me get back. Let me go back a little bit. First time chatter. Hey, I'll turn this guy up. Randora Shuffle. Hey, thanks for joining the channel. Coming out to check it out. What got me into wood turning? Actually, I'm a disabled vet, and I started turning as therapy for PTSD. Got me through a lot of really, really bad nights. Still does, actually. But I found out I had a knack for it, and then I started pursuing the craft more and more and more. I just get more into it. I love working with wood. I always have. I guess I've been artistic my whole life, but you know, I had my parents were of the generation that being an artist was not valuable. There was no value in it, so they talked me out of being one. But anyway, I get to explore that now because it's my life, and I'm a disabled vet, and I live alone. I can do what I want. So anyway, like I said, I started turning as therapy for PTSD. I heard, over and over and over, artist therapy, and it's like, okay, yeah, let me give it a shot. And then, having lived it, yeah, art is therapy. It gives me a chance to quiet the chatter and have that focus in front of me instead of in my head with all that noise. Randora Shuffle then says, what's the difference between sanding it off and turning it off? With sanding it off, I'm creating heat on the wood, and I have to go through all these grits. So, and the rule of thumb is you don't skip grits. If you want to have a really good surface, and that is true, you don't want to skip any grits. So if you start at, say, 60, then you'll hit 80, then 100, then 120, and then 150, then 180, then 220, then 320, then 400. And there's probably a 240 in there, and so it gets to be a lot. But with tool control and sharp tools, I can get that surface down to where I start much higher on the sanding scale if I want to sand at all. There have been many times that I have taken the finish right off the tool, and it was just beautiful. But again, it's a lot of practice. So if I am turning it off, I'm actually using my tools and practicing and making those cuts and changing the shape and cleaning all that stuff up. I'm actually turning. That's in my head. If I am having to go through a bunch of grits of sandpaper, then I'm sitting here just creating dust and not really doing anything. In a manner of speaking, I mean, you can use sandpaper as a shaping tool. I mean, everybody does a little bit of that, but I wouldn't use it as like trying to shape the whole damn thing. That's what the tools are for. So the difference is it's much more enjoyable for me. For one, I don't have this dust going all over the place, and I can watch my tool skill improve as I go. Taking time to do all the right things, ABCs of turning, anchor, bevel, cut, getting the tool in the right orientation, all that stuff. There is a lot to it, but with practice it gets easier and easier to deal with, and your body builds muscle memory. But that's essentially what got me into wood turning, and now I love it. It's a blast. Likely harasser restricted, that would be Monte Carlo 416. Okay, and then I may not be pronouncing this right. It's S-E-E-B-B-B, so Seeb, I'm going to say. Says, do you varnish it afterwards? Sometimes. I don't always put a finish on my pieces. It depends on what they're destined for and whether or not I'm going to keep it. I don't like, if I do put finish on my bowls, it'll be the buffing balm that I created. It is beeswax, orange oil, come on Dave, beeswax, orange oil, and walnut oil, Mike Mahoney's walnut oil, and then some very fine pumice and very fine diatomaceous earth, rotten stone. That gives it that extra buff, but the beeswax and everything in there is non-toxic. There's no petroleum products. So if it's meant for food service or whatever, that's what I will use. If it's meant just to be handled on a regular basis, I'll use that. Maybe just walnut oil or tung oil, some natural oil. Part of the reason for that is that when I started turning and I started finishing things, it was winter time, and I had to do it inside. And I didn't want a bunch of petroleum fumes filling up the place I'm renting and probably killing me. So I came up with alternatives and really did the research. Now, if it's for a gallery or showing whatever, I will probably use either a varnish or a, come on, Dave, sorry, 1 second, Danish oil. It is a petroleum product, but it does seal the wood and give it a nice surface. And those particular, now the finish is food safe when it's cured, but it's not destined for food service, or you know what I mean. It's not a stir stick or a bowl or a plate or a cup or whatever. I don't want, that's just my thing. I don't want to get more petroleum and nastiness into people just because of my artwork. I would rather that they enjoy it and not have to feel like, you know, they're, well, I don't have to feel like they're slowly being poisoned. Most people don't think about that, but I do. Yes, I will, once the finish, if I decide that I want to finish on it, once all of the sanding, the surface prep is done, basically the whole project, here, let's do this. So you can see I'm actually doing something while I talk. So basically the whole project, really, whatever you're turning, is basically just refining the surface. You start with a lump of whatever, and you refine the surface, and you refine the surface, and you refine the surface. However you do that is up to you. If you like a lot of sanding, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. I'd rather turn it off and get those skills in there. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to do this. What am I? Gosh, I think let's see, it's 2024, so I'll be 59 this year. Or no, I am 59 already. So I just had a birthday a couple months ago, apparently. So I'm 59. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to do this, but I want to be able to do it for as long as I possibly can. So I work on my body mechanics, work on my posture, work on tool control, all that kind of thing, because eventually things are going to degenerate more than they are. I have also other physical issues, so my impetus is to be able to do this a very, very long time, and get more people excited about it, more veterans excited about art as therapy, even if it's not wood turning. I talk about it a lot because it's done so much for me to get me back into a little bit more semblance of civilian life. To reintegrate, I guess, is the right term. But you know, I never really, I don't know, there's a lot to it. You know, being ex-military, the culture in the military is way different than it is on the outside, and it can be difficult to explain why things are done the way they are to people who have not had military experience. But this helps me, and I know that art helps many people around the world. This is an art form. It is a craft. It's been around for a long, long time. I don't remember, I know I read where they found, or they suspect, you know, one of the oldest lathes comes from, it's a treadle lathe, you know, it's operated by human power. I did watch a video about the very first precision lathe itself that was made out of metal and all that could do lathe turning, and that was like in the 1700s, I think. Might have been the 1800s, but I mean, it was very finely crafted, but it was a smaller lathe. You could do, you know, metal or wood with it, but that was the very first lathe, the first powered lathe, not human powered. So anyway, there's a lot of history to it. There's a lot of ground you could cover in the wood turning world. I can't even describe how much is out there. Everybody's vision is a little bit different. Everybody has a little bit of a different way of doing things and perceiving things. There's so many different things out there to do. I've watched a guy, you know, carve a piece of timber on the lathe with a chainsaw. Now he was doing it, with all the safeties and all that stuff. The lathe wasn't running and yada yada yada, but and he was doing it as safely as he possibly could. But that's how he turns his stuff. I'm not of that mind. I try to keep power tools out of it as much as possible. Try to only have to focus on one thing at a time. Another likely harasser restricted. Alcohol 1215. Wow. Okay, so I guess some people are out today. Hopefully, or actually, I'm glad that the chat bot or whatever it's doing its job. So anyway, hopefully that answers your question. I will decide once all of the surface prep is done, and by that I mean the finish sanding, everything is done. Then I will decide, and we'll see. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it, but it would be after the sanding and everything's finished. So let's turn this back down. We can actually turn this guy. Well, you can see this. This is the glue ring here that's left from the block. I think that's pretty close to centered. I might be a little high, low. Let's see. There we go. So I want to get rid of this too. This is really, really sharp. Very, very sharp. And get rid of it the same way. It's just a scrape right across the surface. All of the pieces, you should be, if the camera will show it up, you'll see the pieces go into the flute and out that way. So they're not coming flying into my face. So now all that glue is gone. Oh, I got a little string of glue, so there was some that the accelerant didn't get. Well, it's almost all gone. And so I mean, this is plastic, but it still gets to be very, very sharp. All right, I need to move my tailstock further back. How's my bowl gouge doing? All right. I think I want to bring this up a little bit. And, I mean, there's a variety of tools, too. I can do a lot of things with surface prep. I don't have to use sandpaper. I could use a negative rake scraper. I could use a card scraper. I've done that on the outside. I could use a skew as a shear scraper on the outside of stuff. I've done that. So really it just depends on what you're comfortable with and where your tool handling skills are. Didn't like that. That was a little bit too heavy of a cut. So I think, oh yeah, I do have it up. All right, cool. So you won't see me over the shoulder. What I want to do is work my way down from the rim down to the bottom, and all of this wood that's in the middle is supporting all the wood that's out here except for what I'm cutting away. So I'm going to work my way down in stages, so I only have this height of wood or this depth of wood that might possibly flex while this thing is turning. I don't expect a lot of flexion out of this because this is just a gnarly the grain goes everywhere in this piece, so I'm not expecting a lot of it, but this is just a practice I usually do. I don't usually go and start in the center and start making the whole bowl all the way out, because you start losing, once you start losing this support, this can start flexing, even all the way down into the bottom. So you don't want to, in my opinion, it's better not to just start coring it out and coring it out and working your way out. It's better to work your way in. That way your cuts are supported, the wood is supported, everything works a little bit nicer. Not negating the people that do their bowls that way. I have actually done smaller bowls that way. It's just, I don't typically use that type of turn. I don't typically turn my bowls that way. Plus, I have a lot more control over my wall thickness all the way down. It's coming loose. There's some really hard wood. Alright. So let's see. I need to true this up a little bit. Just a little bit. I'm just pushing with my thumb the whole way, the tool, allowing the tool to make the cut, not trying to force it in. I think that that does a lot for your surface too, is if you're not trying to bruise the wood or push into the wood. I'm not riding the bevel on the way down. My bevel is never touching. It's only, the bevel there is for me to get started on the cut. I still have to rotate the tool in just a little bit to engage the cutting edge. So once I do that, that bevel is no longer touching. I'm not floating it, I'm not riding it, I'm using the cutting edge and using the bevel as a directional guide. Wherever the bevel points, however you got the tool rotated, that's where it's going to want to cut. So I have my bevel set, anchor, bevel, my bevel is set, and then I can start the cut. So I would rotate the tool just a little bit to get the cut started, and then I'm off and running, and I'm never bruising or burnishing the wood with my bevel. Now a lot of people, they'll do double or triple bevels, or they'll even round this whole thing off, because this can burnish your wood pretty handily. And if you bevel it, you can sometimes get the tool in tighter spots. And I do that sometimes. I'll do that with a tool, but most of the time I don't. To me, it doesn't make that much of a difference. Well, to me, it's more of a pain in the butt. I think it's it's half dozen of one and six of the other. It depends on what shape you're making, what kind of tool or what kind of tool shape you need to get into that spot. So I modify my tools a lot. If I need a different on a gouge, I'll put a different angle on it. I've done that a lot to see how I like cutting with certain with different angles that people say, oh, this is the best angle. No, this is the best angle. I have found that 60 degrees is quite handy. This is a 60-degree Jameson grind. It's a modification of the Ellsworth grind, which is a modification of the Irish grind, which is a traditional grind for tools. But 60 degrees does really nicely on almost everything that I turn, and then the other angle that I typically turn with is 50 degrees, and that's all of my spindle gouges are 50 degrees. So those are the two angle tools that I work with, other than my skew, which is set at about 20-25 degrees per side, but that's a skew. As far as gouges go, I stick with pretty much 60 degrees and 50 degrees. But it's my preference. So I can cut this stuff away because it's not supporting anything out there. I can get rid of it. And now it's also not in my way. fish whacker, I'm going to move my magnetic light over, and while I'm at it, I can look at nothing new on chat. Okay. I'm going to move my light over so I get a little bit more light over here. It is unfortunately still an LED. Oh, thought it was plugged in. That goes to that, so this must go to the other lathe. We can unplug that for now. That way I can see my lines, because when I'm turning, I'm not necessarily trying to watch the tool. You can't see a lot of what's going on there. Shavings are coming over, the wood is coming over the tool this way. I typically look over on the other side to watch the lines as they form, and to give me an idea of how deep my cut is going. Let's see, I want, so not a big rim, but that's okay. I don't want a really big rim. Another thing that I'm doing, and this also comes with practice, is that as I'm making this cut, I'm watching how it's forming while watching the outside, so I can keep those walls parallel. I could use some calipers. This comes with practice. I could use calipers, right? Set them, but I got to get around that corner to use them. And just looking at that, I'm almost dead on. Whoops, let's get around there. But I'm eyeballing it today. Let's see, is that enough? Maybe a little bit less? Maybe a little bit less? It is pointing inward, so that's not. I think I'll point it in a little bit more inward. I like a little bit of an inward slope on my rims. That'll do. And then, do I want to keep it as thick as that? I'm trying to decide how thin I want this dude to get. I think not a lot thinner. Oh yeah, I got around that edge. That's sharp. Holy cow. Okay, there. That's what I want right there. That'll work. Alright, so let me round this guy over. Yeah, and that's not so sharp. So I got to make a bowl itself a little bit thinner. I'm going to match the thickness of the rim. So as I'm cutting, and you can see the cut here, I'm looking over here. I can gauge how wide my cut is by this line and how deep I'm going when it gets down to the bottom. Can't see a whole lot of what's happening here because all the shaving's coming over. I already know I've got the angle right. I just need to get the thickness down. And then in a second I'll be rounding this edge over. I'm really close. Man, that's close. Let's see what we got here. 3/8 of an inch. Yeah, a little bit thinner. Hopefully I didn't give you an over-the-shoulder cam. I had to stand over the tool to get bird's eye view of what it was doing around this corner. It's a lot easier to turn corners with a spindle gouge. And my handle doesn't have to move so far. With a bowl gouge, it's got to go the whole travel to get around that corner. You can still turn beads with a bowl gouge. It just, you gotta move that handle. Okay, so that's the thickness I want. Clean that up. Yeah, that's what I want right there. That works, okay. Alright, so I'm going to move my tool rest in. I want to have as little of the tool hanging off the tool rest as possible to limit vibration that I'm introducing by having the tool out there and possibly vibrating. Now I can work my way further in. Move that light a little bit. All right. Yep. Lower the tool rest a bit and maybe get some fresh tool steel. We'll see how this cuts now. Hey, you're not supposed to move. Went a little too far, got a catch on that upper wing, but it's on material that is going to be turned away anyway, so not worried. Gauging by feel, my cut is a little thick on the bottom there. Now it's just a touch thick on the top. Straighten that out. Remember, I'm trying to keep my walls parallel, so this inside curve has to follow the outside curve. That's a little thick. That'll do it. So now that I've got the proper curve, I can just keep taking that curve down little by little, taking that material away until I have this surface, and then that surface will be continuous throughout the bowl. I'm only pushing with this thumb. Turning is mostly finesse in my opinion. I think I was just a wee bit off on my, yeah, there we are. Just a wee bit off on my thickness there. So as I'm cutting, I'm watching that line. I want it to be the same depth all the way down. And I just have this little bit left. It's working out nicely. Let's see how my tool's doing. I think I will swap tools and get some sharp steel into play here. Move that guy aside. Difference. So the more I can control the tool, the better the surface will be and the less sanding I'm going to have to do. And the more time I get to spend turning. Just a wee bit of a hump right there, and I'm doing okay because I'm not like really far down in the bowl. I don't want to have to go back because this could flex, but it is really solid. I don't think I'm really getting any flex at this point. I might start getting flex when I get the bottom thinner, but I'll be working down there and not up here. There we go, that got it. Nice. Alright. Tool rest is in a good spot. Let's move it a little bit over there. I want to get past the pivot point so I can just kind of move it in. hoping, no, I guess, well, you might be able to see it on the camera, on the upper screen there. As I'm making the cuts, I'm using my whole body to make these cuts. I've got my anchor set here and on my body. I've got the bevel pointed in the right direction, which is this way. The flute is at 45. And to make the cut, all I got to do is engage the cutting edge and then rotate my hip forward. So I'm not using any arm muscles. Using all the major muscle groups, big muscle groups. Every chance I get, I'm using the larger muscle groups. Less work and less beating up the body. Man, I'm getting shavings everywhere. What a bummer. Okay, let's see. I need to work my way down further in. So now I can rotate this guy in. I guess I could have moved the whole tool rest, but hey, there we go. That's sturdy. Let's check chat. Nothing new. Okay. So I'm already trying to match that outside curve on the bottom. And in this case, I'm not even pushing with my thumb. My thumb is just a pivot point. I'm moving my whole body and moving the tool back this way and leaving all this as a pivot point. Only going as fast as the tool can cut, no stress on my body. I'm watching the cut happen down here. That probably looks a little bit better. Let's take a feel of it. Boy, I think, okay, I got a little bit of a lip right on the very top of the cut that I'm going to get rid of, but everything else feels pretty darn good. So I have probably 2 passes left, maybe 3 to get that corner down. I'm just taking it in little increments. It will be two passes. So I'm just double checking my wall thickness here. That can come off. Like that. And then one more pass will get that surface match with what I already finished. Oh, lovely. All right. Now I got to work the rest of the bowl, and I'm going to be really trying hard to pay attention to the the depth of the bowl here. So from this point, pretty much just making cuts like this. Trying to match the bottom, the very bottom of the curve, which is way down here. It's close. So as I'm turning, I'm paying attention to that line right there. Whole body is moving the tool. Lots and lots of lovely shavings. Okay, I got to take that down just a bit. That should be close. Move this guy in a little bit more. Starting to look like a bowl. A little bit deeper there. Adjust my tool height just a little bit. Tool rest height. I'm almost right up on that curve. Get rid of that material since it's not supporting anything. That's when the cut starts. Now I think I can just pick it up. Little bit of work to do right there. right there. So I'm a little thick in the bottom. We'll resolve that here real shortly. So now what I'm going to do, since I have, let's see how much I can make this flex. Okay, so you can probably see it is actually flexing. I don't know if you can see it deform, but it is actually flexing if I put enough pressure on it. I'm going to grab a negative rake scraper and just clean that surface up in preparation for sanding. Normally I wouldn't, but because this is really hard, you know, I can't remember. I think this might be crotchwood, but it's really, really super hard. So I'm just going to take a really, really light scrape to clean up all these lines, and then that will set me up for finished sanding. I mean, really, I could start sanding right there, but I want to clean it up. So, I think that dude is back here. There you are. There's your burr. Got to put a burr on it. Got a platform that's getting in my way off my drill press, so I'm just dropping it down to be able to get to the grinder a little bit better and be able to swing my handle around. Alright, so I got a negative rake scraper. I want, with any scraper, you want the angle between the cutting edge, in this case it's going to be the burr. I've created a burr up on that edge there. So I want that angle where it contacts the wood to be less than 90 degrees. At 90 degrees it's going to cause a little bit more tear out, and I'm going to not contact that burr as much as I want to. So I want to bring the handle up, which means that my tool rest has to come up a bit, so that I'm kind of pointing the tool down into the center. But not, I mean, it doesn't have to be super pronounced. I just need less than 90 degrees. So I can get that burr right on the surface. So I'm giving the bowl a little bit of support with my hand behind it because it does want to flex a little bit. I'm not trying to push my hand into the bowl because that's going to create friction and burn the shit out of my hand. It's just kind of resting there, ready to give, you know, if there's, it's just giving enough support that it's limiting the vibration a little bit, and I just need to limit it a little bit. It might squeak without my hand there. You can hear that squeak. With my hand there, it's not as bad. The squeak is the flexion of the wood against the tool. Because it's moving in and out and in and out, so it's creating that vibration. That squeak is actually vibration. That squeak right there. So even with the scraper, that's the shaving. I'm using just the burr. None of the bevels are making contact. So again, the bottom was just a little thick. And one other pass. That squeak was me contacting too much of the tool to the wood. Still just a touch thick in the bottom. That's good, that's good, that's good. It's right there. All right. There we go. That'll do it. So now I have a really, really nice surface to start doing any sanding on right off the bat. So I can start pretty high. I'm still going to start with 220, but I could start pretty high. I don't have to start with a 60, 80, 100, 120, whatever. But again, it's the practice and the tool control, and that's where you will get there too with the practice. You will get there as well. That's a much nicer surface to even look at. If this was just going to be a utility bowl, I would leave that. I would leave it alone. I might sand this rim, but I would leave all that alone because it doesn't matter. It's not. It's a utility bowl. If it was utility bowl, I'd say okay, it's a utility bowl. It's okay if it's not perfectly finished on the inside. What matters is I want to see the grain. Whatever I use this for doesn't matter, but I want to be able to see the grain, which is why I didn't turn this into a box. Wow, it's definitely deforming a lot now, but that's because it's pretty thin. Maybe 3/16 of an inch. Oh man, I could probably do a little work right. I think I'm going to do a little bit more work right in here. Just really light cuts. See if that, I just had just a little bit too thick. There. That took care of it. So now I can sand all that. And the surface, it does feel really nice. I mean, there's no tool marks. I mean, you can see a little bit here on the outside rim, which is going to sand away very easily, but there's no tool marks in here. And that means I don't have to spend a ton of time trying to get those tool marks out by sanding. I want to just slightly adjust this curve. That was it, right on the money. Yay, baby. All right, cool. All right, so now I'm ready to sand. I'm ready to do whatever finish prep I want to do. So I'm going to put a couple of tools away. What time we got here? 10 o'clock. I'm doing all right. Cool. Not bad. Taking a little extra time and explaining things and all that. This is still not bad. Okay, scraper goes back. Huh, wood chip in my mouth. So let's go back to the overhead. Let's see, is the music playing? The music is not playing. Why is the music not playing? Let's see. Because Slipstream is messing with me today. Come on, you can do it. No? Alright, fine. I was going to leave you with some music because I've got to, I want to get the sander running, but I need the compressor running as well. But that will be in a few moments while I swap this guy out. Hopefully, not that guy. I think it's this guy. Hopefully I pulled the right wrench off the first time. I did not. I'm swapping the whole head because I got these pretty well centered when I got them on there, and if I have to peel it off to put on another one, I got to spend that time. And since I don't feel like spending that time, I just keep two backup pads. I guess we'll start with that. So I always check my rotation to see that it's not, coming out around. I want the abrasive as centered as I can possibly get it as I'm going through the inside of a bowl, because it is going to shift a little bit when we come up the side, but I don't want to start with already an oblong piece out because then it makes weird shapes in the timber. So I am going to, unfortunately I'm sorry I can't leave you with some tunes, but I'm going to mute this because the compressor is going to be very, very loud. This shouldn't take very long anyway, so bear with me please. I will be going silent and I will be back. Oops. All such away. Mask away. Oh man, that's lovely. Let's take a different look at it. Oh, wow. Okay, now I think. Oh man. Alright, I'm going to do the inside with my buffing balm. We'll see. It's really going to make that pop. Oh, this is going to be cool. Alright, at 400, which is the lowest speed my lathe can go, let's grab a little bit of, ooh, let's get rid of this guy too, because he might be a poker, and we don't want pokers. I've really generated a lot of shavings off this one. One blank, yeah, very cool. But it's maple. Well, that didn't rip the way I wanted it. Alright, that'll work. So, let's see, I can check chat. Nothing happening. Alright. Alright, so to go back to Seed's question, do you varnish it afterwards? This time I'm going to use buffing balm, but if I was going to use varnish, I'd do it now. Now that all the sanding is done, there's nothing left to do. I've got no tool marks, no extraneous weird marks on my piece. Now it is prepared for a finish coat of whatever, a finish of whatever your choice is. Oh man, yeah, this is really gonna jump out. Now these bark inclusions, oh no, they're not gonna pop out, but I'll have to clean the wax out of the bark inclusions when I'm done here. Oh man, that is really bringing on some color. Hey, I could share that right there. Okay, glasses first. Got to make sure the grit, you can, well, I don't know if you can see it on camera, you might have seen some of it at the very beginning, making lines, and I can see lines forming behind the towel in the wax, and in this case that is still some of that grit, so I'm just working it till that grit completely broken down. There we go. Now I can buff it. Oh man, that's hot. Yeah. Woohoo! That gets warm. Wow, look at that. Oh man, that is just gorgeous. Oh, that's beautiful. The chatoyance in that is amazing. Let's see, you know, I can do the wax on the outside here and not get anything in the way, so this is what I'm going to do all the way around the bowl. That looks phenomenal. Love that grain. Got a little bit much. And actually, I should actually start with a new towel. So that one's coming apart. That one's not going to work. But this one will. Alright, get a little bit of wax on there, not much. I don't want to put too much on here. A little of this goes a long way, and if I get too much, it's just going to throw it off the lathe anyway, so let's get that back part done. Nope, my bad. Slow it back down. My favorite part about this whole thing isn't just like how it brings the glow out and all that. My favorite part is it's already food safe. Everything, every ingredient in here is food safe and graded for like dietary. The pumice that I have is a dietary pumice. The diatomaceous earth is a dietary. So it's all, I mean, you know, granted they're natural minerals, but everything is food safe. Oop, gotta buff it. And now we have a finished bowl other than the very foot. Holy cow, does that pop. Wow. That is just a beautiful piece of wood. Nice curves, no tool marks. So let me grab another paper towel here. We'll set that dude down and I'll do this part. By hand. Too much again. It is easy to get too much of this stuff at once. But it works really, really well. I'm really glad that I was able to find not only ingredients but recipes that I could modify. Yeah, that's too much, but that's alright. We'll wipe it all out. keep saying too much, and the reason I'm saying that is because there is grit in this, so it's a lot more grit to deal with than I really need. This particular blend, like I say, a little goes a long way, and oh, there we go. Anyway, a little too much. I mean, it's not a bad thing, it just means more grit I've got to get through. It's very similar to, ooh, I had the word right there, Yorkshire grit. They use mineral oil and, ooh, there's something else in there that I'm not fond of. And mineral oil doesn't come from minerals, it comes from, you guessed it, petroleum. And I don't want to put more petroleum products in, you're not seeing much, there we go. I don't want to put more petroleum products out in the world. We already give them enough damn money. Mineral oil, and then they talked like America, at least. I don't know about the rest of the world, but they talked America, at least, into slathering it all over their babies. It's baby oil. Well, in my book, whale oil comes from whales. So, does baby oil come from babies? No. There we go. Just on a rant, I'm not a fan of the conglomerations and price gouging and artificial inflation of economies and deflation of economies done by big oil, among others. So that's just my rant. There we go. I don't have to use their products in a lot of ways, and so those lot of ways I don't. I drive a car, but I do my best to be mindful of it and not just willy-nilly drive all over the place. You almost always have a plan when I get in my vehicle, which is why sometimes I don't leave this place for, a couple days. I don't want to just make a trip for this and then 10 minutes later go down the road again and make a trip for that. I want to have a plan, not have to pollute as much as is absolutely necessary. On and on and on. Alright, let's see. Clean this guy out. There we go. So there's a little bit of wax in these tiny cracks here that I'm just pulling out with my pick. It's not going to hurt anything, but it's a different color than the wood. And it looks kind of messy that way, so I'm going to clean it. There we go. Get those guys. Yeah, I'm very pleased with it. Yeah, I'm pleased. Very, very pleased. That's a beautiful piece of wood. I don't feel like I used a beautiful piece of wood to hide my mistakes or my lack of skill. I think my skill actually showcased the piece of wood in a much better light, and that's one of the mainstays of how I teach comes across. Controlled cuts, control of the tool. I mean, I'm a control freak, and I know that in a lot of ways being a control freak can be a negative, but in my shop it's not. It's a positive. I want to control as much of the process as I can. I can't do anything about the wood. I had a little bit of wax there. I can't do anything about what the wood itself is going to do, say during a drying process or whatever. I mean, I can kind of control the drying process and all that, but the stresses in the wood are going to do what the stresses in the wood are going to do. This probably had tons of stress in it because of all of that grain that just goes everywhere. And letting it sit for, well, I mean, it wasn't on purpose. It's just I didn't have an idea what I wanted to do with this guy. So it sat on my shelf for a very, very long time, but that meant that it got to season for a very, very long time too. And so any of the stresses in the wood played out during the drying process on the shelf over here, and they don't have to play out after I have already turned the piece. Now I turn green wood very often, and I love turning green wood because as it dries, it changes shape and does all kinds of cool things. Some woods, like apple, they really change shape a lot. So I like turning apple really, really thin because it just crinkles up and does crazy things. It's awesome. But all green wood is going to, as it dries, it's going to kind of go oval, change shape a little bit. And where the stresses in the wood are, let me point this. There it is. Okay, so where all this curl is, all this feathering, and I got that in high enough. Here, let me turn this off. Yeah, that's a little bit better. So all this curl and all this feathering, there's a lot of stress in that part of wood, or at least where it was when it was green. And as it dries, it's all trying to pucker and pull together and do all that crazy stuff, trying to pull itself away from outside of itself. So during the drying process, what's going to happen is what's going to happen. And that's why I leave my wood a little bit thicker before when I'm drying it. I don't just cut it down to, I'm going to need an 8-inch blank, and then cut it down to 8 inches and then let it dry, because it's going to be out of round at the very least out of round, but it may crack and break. One of the key things to that is, like, let me grab a twice turned bowl. Hold on a sec. So I thought if I had enough time, this is a twice turned bowl. This is a piece of ash, and it's been sitting in my shop for a couple of years. Oh man, one of these days I'll turn it. But it's been seasoning, and all the wall thickness all the way through. This is just a blank. Now it's not a finished bowl. Clearly, it's still got a tenon, and we've got to do something about the foot there and all that. But I had to turn it a little bit thick to give it room to move and change shape and all that. But I want to keep the wall thickness even throughout the piece, because that means, in theory, that it all dries more evenly. If you have a thicker part in your billet or blank, it's going to dry more slowly. The thinner parts are going to dry more quickly, and they're going to want to try to move much more quickly than the other wood wants to move. So that's where you get cracks and splits and stuff like that. So when you do twice turn stuff, you turn it green and you leave the wall thicknesses even. This is this is ash. It was turned green. What is that? 3/8 of an inch wall thickness, I guess. Yeah, 3/8 of an inch wall thickness all the way throughout. Now, normally I would leave it like an inch all the way around. I would just rough out a shape, and then, like this one right behind me. This big cherry bull. So this big cherry bull I turned green, and you can see that the wall thickness is about an inch thick. It's an inch thick all the way through. That's normally how I do that, but I know that cherry moves a lot, and it can move a lot. And this was right off of a cherry burl, so it's not burl itself, but it was the wood right outside it. So it's going to want to do crazy things, I hope. But anyway, I turned it with an even wall thickness all the way around. Is that a crack? Oh, it's a bark inclusion. Cool. That kind of looked like a crack right there. But it's a bark inclusion, so not a big deal. This is sitting on the shelf, and it's going to dry for, I'll get to it next year, maybe. Unless I get really, really antsy. But I probably won't turn it over the winter because water doesn't evaporate as fast in the winter, so these take a lot longer to dry in the winter. I've got my studio here in the garage, and it's uninsulated and unheated. But it is protected from the elements, so that's awesome. Anyway, I got away with a thinner wall thickness here because ash is a denser wood than some of these other ones. It's much strong. It's stronger, and it doesn't move as much depending on where you actually take it out of the tree. And so I wasn't really too worried. I could leave it a little thinner because it's going to be thin anyway. But even if it had an inch, it would still turn it thinner. But I could get away with a narrow wall thickness with this particular wood, this ash. White oak, I can kind of do that. It depends. Sometimes white oak does move more than others. Red oak does like to move, so I'll leave those a little thicker. Still a stronger wood, but ash doesn't seem to do that as much. It is definitely out around. You can kind of see it's slightly ovaled. But it didn't move very much. It's been in the shop for a couple of years, so all of its movement should be done by now, other than whatever it does to acclimate to the environment that it finally finds itself resting in as a finished piece. So if it's a more humid area, it might move a little more because it's soaking up that moisture. This is still a living material. It is going to move within its environment and adjust to the humidity levels, temperature levels, all that kind of stuff. So if it goes directly from a dry environment right into a wet environment or a more humid environment, it might start wanting to move. If it went from a very humid environment directly to like the deserts of Arizona, you're going to want to dry this slow, because if you put it out in the deserts of Arizona, it's going to dry fast and it's going to crack. So those are things that you kind of got to pay attention to when you're doing twice turn stuff, how it's going to react, and things that I'm still learning. It's fascinating stuff. I love working with wood. I think it's great. So let me put this back over here on my twice turned shelf. Yeah, I just don't think I could be more pleased. It's a nice 7-inch bowl. It's got a nice comfortable rim on it. I mean, it's saleable. It's perfectly saleable the way it is. I don't know. I might keep it. I might. This is just beautiful. Unless somebody makes me an offer I can't refuse. Normally I would put these on the stuff that I turn here on my online store, but I got to think about this one because, like I said, I've held on to it for a couple of years. I finally turned it. Maybe I'll just hold on to it for a couple of months and stare at it for a while, and then go, okay, it's time to put it on the website or whatever. I don't know. We'll figure that out in the near and distant future, however that plays out. But I'm really pleased with how this came out, and I want to thank you very much for joining me this evening. I'm going to. I got basically about 15 minutes left, so I'll go ahead and open it up directly. I mean, it was already open, but you know, if you have anything, I'm not turning. If you have any questions or comments, please throw them in chat. I'll get to them right here before we wrap up the program. And while I'm waiting for that, I'll go through my little spiel real quick. My name is Dave, and I'm a wood turner. I started this channel so that I could become a better demonstrator and a better teacher. And I want to help other people, whatever skill level, become better turners too. In turn, I become a better turner. So for those 4 reasons, that's why I started this channel. I want to be the best turner I can be. I want to help people become the best turners they can be, or at least shorten the journey, take the bumps out of the road, some of the bumps out of the road, whatever, speed up the learning process, because there are very efficient ways to use these tools that aren't taught by everybody. There are and many of these tools are more versatile than they're taught to be. I just did a couple of demonstrations with skews. There are so many things you can do with a skew. You can shear scrape with a skew. I probably one of these days I'll do it again, and shear scrape the outside of a bowl with a skew. But you can shear scrape with a skew. You can use it as a negative raker. You can use it as a skew. You can use either point. Anyway, there's a lot to it. You can actually catch the you can catch that on in my library on my YouTube channel. Let me put that right here in chat. But it should also be linked in My bio, I think it is LinkedIn on Twitch. There might be a link on my channel page. I'm not sure. I can't remember right at the moment because my brain is going 500 miles an hour. Oh man, the microphone was off for that whole time. That sucks. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So I don't see that anything is in chat. No comments. Wow. I just that whole all of that information is now gone. Let me just run through some of it really quick. My name is Dave. I'm a wood turner. I started turning as therapy for PTSD. I'm a military veteran. I found out I had a knack for it, fell in love with it. I love working with wood. I love actually teaching this stuff because I get to see I don't know. I love it when people actually get the process and they can make, they can change or improve their turning, and just the looks on their faces, I think is phenomenal. It's great. I want to be able to carry this forward. I found out I did have a knack for it, fell in love with it, and now I'm working on creating a career out of it. I'm also a beekeeper. I got started with Heroes to Hives, military veteran. It's a program that teaches veterans and their dependents, free program, that teaches veterans and their dependents how to be successful beginning beekeepers. I've been a beekeeper for 6 years now. Working on my master beekeeping certification through the University of North Dakota. Here probably next year. Hopefully, I've got one more test to take, and then not for the master beekeeping course, but I got one more test to take to get into the master course, because there's how does it go? Trainee, journeyman, master, right? So I'm almost through the journeyman part of the process. One more test. And I can get into the master program, and then I can actually become an instructor in the Heroes to Hives program, working directly with veterans as an instructor, and not just another voice in the wind that says, yeah, beekeeping is great. I think beekeeping is wonderful therapy. I do laugh about that because most people, well, not most people, a lot of people give me the side eye when I say that, but most people think when they think of bees, they think of an angry hive and stings and yada yada yada, and how can that be meditative? But that's not the whole that's not the process. I think keeping bees is very, very calming, and working in the apiary, I actually look forward to it, because it is really, it's a wonderful therapy. There's so many aspects to it: the sights, the sounds, the smells, working with the bees just in general, their own temperaments and all that. Learning, it's all a science-based program, which fits my curlicue brain just nicely. I'm not a huge, I don't know, esoteric stuff is kind of cool, and I get a lot of it, but I'm more of a, I don't know what you would say, more earthy guy. I'm definitely more physical. That's where my meditation is best, is in physical movement. So again, another reason why wood turning works so well, and beekeeping. I keep polishing this bowl, but dang man, it's pretty. All this grain and chatoyance is freaking awesome. One more time, I love this bowl. This is great. And that's another thing too about wood turning, is like you get almost instant gratification. Almost. I did this in 2.5 hours. I would do it a lot faster. But I was explaining everything as I go, and stopping and all that. I do take the time to make sure that my tool control is spot on. If I am not in the right frame of mind to be turning, I don't turn. Most of the time that's not the case, but I've had episodes where it just wasn't going to work out, and this type of meditation wasn't going to work for that day, that moment, whatever. But there's other outlets like the bees. It's great. Anyway, I want to thank you very much for joining me this evening. I hope to see you again. I do broadcast every Tuesday and Wednesday evening, well, most Tuesday and Wednesday evenings. If I've got a show going on that I've got to get ready for, whatever, I may cancel one of those days. But you follow the channel, you will get all the notifications, you will get all of the updates, and if you go to the YouTube channel and like and subscribe, you'll get access to all the past broadcasts. So if you want to learn anything about the skew, or you're dubious about the skew, or you like to brush up on the skew, hey, go down to the YouTube and check out my skew, my skew video. I think it will open your eyes a bit to the possibilities of a skew. I think a skew, well, all the tools are very indispensable. You can't turn, you can turn with homemade tools and all that, but you can't turn with your fingernails. So you got to have some tool, and every tool is customizable to what works for you, whatever grind you want, whatever angle you want, whatever thickness of tool steel you want. It's all customizable. What you get from the factory is a blank of steel that's not necessarily sharpened. You turn it into what you want. And so there's a lot of freedom in this, but there are so many, and of course tool steel is spendy, so I want to find the most efficient way to use these tools and the best way to sharpen, so I'm not sharpening off, you know, tons of material every time I refresh the edge. I just want to get over there, refresh the edge as quickly as possible, 1 or 2 passes, get right back to turning. So my tools last a lot longer now, but again, it's practice and experience. Everybody will pick it up at some point. You will too. I want to encourage you to keep on turning if you do, and if you aren't a turner yet, I want to encourage you to give it a try, man. Find your local wood turning club. Let me turn this light off. And hang out at a meeting and see if you know, you like the group, and there is a good possibility that you feel like there's a good possibility that you enjoy it. I'm pretty sure you're going to enjoy it. It is a really wonderful craft to know. Like I tell people all the time, like, you know, I did this one time. I went to I broke my shovel handle, and so I was like, crap, I gotta go to the store and buy a handle. So I went to the store. I'm looking at all the handles, and as I'm looking at all the handles, I'm going, what the fuck am I doing here? I can go turn one. So I came back and turned a shovel handle. Boom, I was back in business. I had a good time turning the handle too. I had a blast. It was a break from digging. I got to turn the handle, fix my tool, and go back. So being a wood turner, there's a lot of benefits too. I can make all kinds of stuff. And if I don't know how to make it, I'm going to try to figure it out. Whatever I can turn on the lathe, I'll give it a shot. So I do resin sometimes. I have actually turned, well, I've turned some copper. I haven't like turned pieces out of copper. I've seen people do it in brass. You can do that on a lathe with wood turning tools, just a lot of sharpening. But the wood turning tools are harder than the copper and the brass that you might be turning. So there are a lot of possibilities with wood turning lathe. A lot of ground to cover. So many things: boxes, pens, bowls, plates, hollow forms, you name it, urns, spinning tops, fidget toys, captured rings, beads. You know, I mean, there's so much. And everybody has their own perspective on it. Everybody has their own ideas, which makes it even better, because that means the wood turning world becomes even more open, because people are open to figuring out or playing around with stuff, and I really dig it. That's my goal too. I'm always playing around with things, trying to learn like the most efficient use of tools, sharpening skills, all that stuff, because tools are expensive. I want them to last as long as possible. And I started to understand that wood turning is almost all finesse. Almost all of it is finesse. And you can get there with practice. So find a good, competent wood turner that can teach you. I would be happy to help you out too. I am a teacher and instructor. If you have one in your area, wood turning club in your area, you can find them through that. You can go to Aramont School of Arts in Tennessee. They do also give scholarships. John C. Campbell down in North Carolina, they also give scholarships. There's the Dale something or other. It's not Carnegie. I cannot remember the name of it though. But there's a wood institute like in New York, and they do similar things. I don't know about scholarships because I haven't applied to that school. But there are very good turners that go to teach these schools. I will soon be one of them, traveling around the country to those schools to teach too. At least that's my goal. So find competent. Don't go to YouTube and just look random stuff up, unless you know the turner is a good turner, a professional turner, whatever. Is a good turner and knows what they're doing. Don't just blindly follow YouTube. I did when I started. I almost gave up turning. I broke tools. I broke lathe parts because I was following stuff on YouTube and not realizing that YouTube is mostly, they make things for the views, right? The views is what makes the money. So they're not necessarily doing things in the safest, most efficient manner possible. But that's what I teach. The safest, most efficient manner possible. So anyway, having said all that, And that's a mouthful. I want to thank you very much for joining me. I hope you stay friendly. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week and into the weekend. And I hope to see you next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, on Twitch Tuesday, Woodturning Wednesday, 8 to 11 p.m., Woodturning with Dave Reif. Thanks a lot, folks, for hanging out. I really appreciate you supporting this channel. Hope you have a good one.